So if your child is melting down after school, have some empathy. Let them know that you are there for them. Hey, I know that this is a hard time. I'm here for you. And then one thing that I found the most helpful for my family was to stop asking so many questions after my son came home from school. He'd come home from school and I immediately wanted to know how his day was. What did he do? What did he do with his friends? All these things. And it was not fun. Those conversations. He was tired. He needed some quiet time. So I ended up moving all of those questions and those school conversations to like dinner time. And that was a big game changer.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jessica. And this is All Things Sensory by Harkla.
We are both certified occupational therapy assistants, and together with Harkla, we are on a mission to empower parents, therapists, and educators to help raise confident and strong children of all abilities.
On this podcast, we chat about all things sensory, diving into special needs, occupational therapy, parenting, self-care, overall health and wellness, and so much more.
We are here to provide raw, honest, and fun strategies, ideas, and information for parents, therapists, and educators, as well as other professionals to implement into daily life.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey there, welcome back to All Things Sensory by Harkla. We're so happy to have you here again today for another podcast episode. I'm Rachel.
I'm Jessica.
And today we're talking all about regulation strategies for the whole family before and after school.
And then we're going to answer a listener question at the end as well.
Yes. This is a topic that we get asked about all the time, and I feel like it's a common pain point for kids to go to school, hold it together, do really well, and then they come home and they melt and they lose it. So we're going to share some tips, tricks, and strategies like we love to do to hopefully make that process going to school and coming home from school just a little bit smoother for everyone.
And the extra challenge with this is that oftentimes that dysregulation from the child causes the parents or the caregivers to feel dysregulated, or vice versa. If the parents are dysregulated, the child becomes dysregulated. So really the tips that we're sharing are for the whole family, for parents, for grandparents, for siblings, for everyone.
Yeah, because it's all connected. The whole process is connected. And so that's what we really want to make sure that we are getting through today, is that the after school routine, success with that routine really does start in the morning. So let's start by sharing some strategies that you can do in the morning. Well, I guess technically the night before. The next morning.
I was going to say it totally.
It's just so much. Okay, so we're going to start with the night before the morning that they're going to school.
Okay. So the night before school, what you want to do is you want to focus on a consistent bedtime routine that's going to help the child get good quality sleep. Mm-hmm. So this can involve reducing artificial lights, which does include the screen and overhead lights. We've talked about this in other podcast episodes, and you may have heard the research out there that's coming out about how screens influence your ability to fall and stay asleep, how artificial lights, fluorescent lights affect your brain. So if you can reduce those a couple hours before bedtime, that's going to have a significant impact. As well as going outside as the sun is going down will signal to the brain to release melatonin, which also helps with sleep.
I feel like we're just going backwards, because as you were talking, I was like, well, technically it should start that morning, because you should go outside first thing in the morning in order to help regulate the hormones required for going to sleep later at night.
It's a never-ending cycle.
So basically...
Okay, but let's also talk about the other things you can do the night before.
At night. So in order to promote a good restful night's sleep, we want to make sure that we are hitting that high sensory threshold as well before we send a child to bed, because oftentimes kids are bouncing off the walls, they're being wild, they're just kind of losing it before bed, which tells us, especially for our sensory seekers, that they need that high sensory threshold met, rather than, sitting down and trying to calm them down and do a calming activity. So We always like to recommend those high intensity sensory activities, like as like the pre-bedtime routine to help get that threshold met, so that way we can do those calming and regulating activities.
All right, let's share a story.
Great.
I don't remember if you were here when this short story was shared at the office by one of our coworkers. And this is a non-school age child. He's 3, I believe. And she was telling me that they were really struggling with bedtime. During their bedtime reading, he was like jumping around, going upside down, just having a lot of movement and wiggles and not really focusing on the bedtime story and regulating before bed. So we talked about some things, and what the family ended up doing was focusing on going for an evening walk or bike ride to the park, and then coming home and then doing the bedtime routine and reading the book. And she said that it made a difference immediately. That going outside, bike ride, walk, going to the playground for a short amount of time, it wasn't a long time, for a short amount of time in the evening after dinner, when it came time to read a book for bed, he was calm, he was snuggly, he was calming down, his brain was getting ready for sleep. So it really does work.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the after dinner, pre-bedtime. So you don't necessarily need to set up a big sensory activity. We like setting up a crash pad in our living room. We take all the couch cushions and throw them on the floor. The kids jump, they crash. That's really simple. Going for a bike ride, scooter ride, rollerblading, just getting outside, going to the park, then coming home, maybe having a bedtime snack, and then starting that bedtime routine.
Yep. Some other things that you can do specifically to help with the morning routine the night before would be to get lunches packed and ready, to prep breakfast ahead of time if possible, to set out clothes that your child is going to change into, set out your clothes that you're going to be changing into, making sure backpacks are ready to go, really just doing, spending 30 minutes in the evening packing and prepping things that you're going to need in the morning, so that then in the morning, you don't have to think about it. It's already ready to go.
Grab and go.
It's a grab and go. That is going to be, I know people don't like these words anymore. It's going to be a total game changer. It really is.
Yeah.
What would be a different word besides game changer that we could use?
Change the game.
That's the same.
I know. It's going to be really beneficial.
It's going to be so impactful.
Super impactful.
Just doesn't sound as good as game changing.
I know.
Real quick, have you ever felt unsure about how to support your child's motor development and you just don't know where to start? Well, we just released our brand new motor skills course, and it's designed for parents and therapists just like you, whether you are a therapist working with children to help them improve their coordination or their handwriting, or if you're a parent who just wants to help support your child on their motor skill development journey, this course is for you.
This course is designed for kids ages 6 and up, and it's broken down into really simple, actionable steps. So that means you're going to learn what motor skills are, why they're important, and how to really improve your child or your client's motor skills from the ground up.
Plus, this course comes with 170 video demonstrations, so you're never guessing on any of the activities. It includes 50 downloadable PDFs, and the best part, it comes with the physical workbook that will be mailed directly to you, so you have everything at your fingertips.
This course is designed to give you practical, simple, and fun strategies to implement into the home or the clinic setting. Plus, if you are an OT, you do get 0.55 AOTA CEUs, which is 5.5 contact hours.
So click the link below to check out all of the details and get started today.
Okay, let's move on to in the morning. We've got everything set up. We are going to set the nervous system up for success. So that can look like going outside, putting the bare feet in the earth, in the grass, in the rocks, whatever you want to do, getting outside, just being awake with the morning sun. I know it sounds so like
cliche.
Yeah, but it really does make a difference. And getting the kids outside, maybe doing chalk or doing just like a relaxing, maybe just reading outside or just doing a sensory bin outside, just being outside in the morning can be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, you could do an activity outside. You could just go for a walk around the block, Sure. I mean, if you live close enough to your child's school, can they walk to school? Can they bike to school? Because that does get them that morning light as well.
What I've done in the past is set up an obstacle course or an activity, or just have something ready for the morning, because I feel like my kids specifically wake up and they're like, rah! And so if I have something for them to do already, that's like a craft, or we've been doing our listening program in the morning while we play with slime, or whatever the activity is, that's really helpful for them to just have an activity to do as we're getting ready, getting breakfast ready and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of breakfast, a quality breakfast that's not full of sugars and artificial dyes does have a huge impact on your child's nervous system throughout the day. It impacts their ability to focus in the classroom. So if you can focus on protein, some fruit, some nutrients of some sort, whether that's from a smoothie or from, you can make like protein pancakes.
Yeah.
Kids love pancakes. Making sure you're starting the day hydrated, whether that's with a glass of water, a cup of milk, if your child tolerates dairy. I feel like this is really hard because something like a bowl of cereal or a Pop-Tart is really easy to just eat really quickly and then go. But really, when you do that, you're really setting your nervous system up for failure, because you get this big sugar rush and then a crash as your child is getting to school. And that's really going to impact their ability to do anything at school.
If your kids love bars, like my kids love bars, you can make ahead some more wholesome bars with honey and almond butter and oats. And my favorite things lately are puffed quinoa, like quinoa crisps, because they're like crispy and crunchy, and I crave that specifically for my own sensory system. But having those prepped ahead of time can be really helpful to just grab and go.
Sometimes, spending some time on the weekend to prep the breakfasts, whether it's, breakfast bars or protein pancakes that you can freeze and then pop in the toaster. Waffles, I guess, would be good for that. Like egg muffins or quiche or something. I know we've got a lot of picky eaters out there, but it is something that you can work on, and just try to focus on higher quality breakfast. I have noticed a huge impact in myself and my own child when we focus on getting protein and fruit in the morning.
Totally.
So
the next thing we're going to pivot to is using a visual schedule or having some sort of a routine tracker, so that way you can set up what the morning routine is going to look like. You can have your child add activities to the morning routine, but this one takes consistency. It's a lot of upfront work of like prepping and making sure that we have all the activities set up. But once the child really understands, like, hey, this is what my day looks like, this is what can be expected, it just makes it so much easier for them to relax. I feel like, even for myself, like if I don't look at my calendar and like know what's expected, if something unexpected pops up, I'm like, oh geez, I wasn't prepared for that.
That is the challenge with visual schedules, is that life does happen and sometimes those unexpected changes do occur, but all in all, visual schedules are so helpful.
Yes, definitely.
And that was, I've talked about this before, but that was a game changer for my son a couple years ago. He was really struggling with that morning routine, and I was having to just constantly remind him to go get dressed, go brush your teeth, do this, do that. And I was getting frustrated. And so we sat down one day and we wrote out our visual schedule. We laminated it, and every morning he would go and check things off. And it took about, I would say 3, maybe 4 days of consistently using it and me reminding him, go look at your visual schedule, or even just let's go look at your visual schedule. And I would take 30 seconds to go look at it with him to see what's next. And, within a week, he was using it independently. Keep in mind that, he's neurotypical. So for our kids who struggle with executive functioning, who are sensory seekers, might take them a little bit longer, which is totally fine. The trick there is just that consistency and a positive reward system of, hey, you did such a great job following your visual schedule. I'm proud of you. I hope you're proud of yourself. And then you carry on.
Yep. All right, let's move on to after school. Kids go to school. They're thriving. They're doing well.
Hopefully.
They are coming home. So whether that's they're getting off the bus, or you're picking them up, or they're walking home or riding their bike, whatever the situation is, a caregiver's picking them up, maybe they're going to after school care for some time. They get home, and what happens?
They melt down.
They melt down. They're whiny, they're tired, they're overstimulated, they've worked so hard.
Or understimulated.
Or understimulated, true. They've worked so hard of keeping it together, holding it together, bottling everything up, that they get home and it's their safe place. So they are completely melting and losing it. Raise your hand if this has happened to your child or children. Yes, it is so common. You are their safe place. You are just like where they feel comfortable to release those emotions. So like on one end, you should feel good that they feel safe to do that.
And have some empathy. School is a very stressful place. There's a lot happening every single day. So if your child is melting down after school, have some empathy. Let them know that you are there for them. Hey, I know that this is a hard time. I'm here for you. And then one thing that I found the most helpful for my family was to stop asking so many questions after my son came home from school. You know, he'd come home from school and I immediately wanted to know how his day was. What did he do? What did he do with his friends? All these things. And it was not fun. Those conversations. He was tired. He needed some quiet time. So I ended up moving all of those questions and those school conversations to like dinner time. And that was a big game changer. Game changer. I can't stop saying it.
Yes.
So I think that's really a great tip, is instead of bombarding your child with questions immediately after school, you know, just be like, hey, nice to see you. Hope you had a good day. And then if they want to engage in conversation, whatever that looks like for them, you can follow their lead for that.
For sure. Yeah. And then having a cozy corner available too can be helpful. So they have a safe place to escape when they get home, where they've got some of their favorite sensory strategies. It's quiet, it's calm, it's regulating, and they can just go to that place after school and relax. But teaching them up front what that looks like is going to be really helpful, rather than just, okay, go calm down in your cozy corner instead of punching me. No, it takes consistency with that, you know, helping them when they're regulated, so that way they learn what that process looks like.
Ideally playing outside after school, or just being outside. You know, I'm thinking of like teenagers who maybe don't necessarily want to go play, quote unquote, play at the playground or play outside, but they could like go sit outside. Maybe you have a space with a nice chair or a hammock of some sort, and they can go hang out there outside after school as well.
And then again, we're going to focus on some of those sensory friendly snacks. So think of cold foods, frozen foods, popsicles, frozen grapes that are cut so they're safe, dried fruit, meat sticks, cheese if it's appropriate for their dietary restrictions. Just crunchy, chewy, cold foods can be really regulating for the nervous system.
And hydration. Water, electrolytes if it's something you use. I keep going back to my kid. He will come home from school and tell me, yeah, I didn't really drink anything today. And I'm like, oh, you're so dehydrated. Go get some water. And he'll like chug water. So most of these kids, even our neurotypical kids, likely aren't staying hydrated through the day. So make sure you provide your child with a form of hydration after school, because they likely need it.
Yes. Now, if you are a parent listening to this, or a professional or a teacher, and you get home from work or school or wherever, and you're feeling dysregulated, we wanted to share some tips for you. But really, it's exactly the same thing that we're going to recommend for our kids.
It's the same.
Right? It's going outside, it's hydration, it's nutrition, it's going for a walk, it's working out, it's good quality bedtime routine. And I say bedtime routine for adults because if you're sitting online and you're scrolling for hours and hours and hours, that's not going to be beneficial for your nervous system. If you use red light, if you have these, you know, colored lenses that you can use in the evening as well, just little self-care tips that can make a big impact.
Yeah, I think it really is so much of the same things that we recommend for our kids that we ourselves need to be doing, and making sure that we're using those sensory tools, those sensory strategies, those like it's a holistic approach of looking at everything that you're doing and saying, does this help me feel regulated or does this put me on edge? And just little tweaks here and there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Little changes go a long way. So make sure that you are thinking about your own nervous system, you're empathizing, and you are really co-regulating with your child after school.
Yeah.
Let's jump into our listener question. This isn't a full question, but we're going to do our best to kind of talk through this one. The question says, he can't read, he has a hard time understanding instructions, behind at school, seat him with tutoring help a little, but it seems like
seating him with a tutor helps.
Seating him with a tutor helps a little, but it seems like his 6-year-old brain, does it scroll down at all?
That was it.
Okay.
So for anyone who's not familiar, we have a link in our show notes that you can click on that link and you can fill out the form to ask us a question, and we'll do our best to answer that question on the podcast. So that was the gist of what this question was. So I'm just, looking at this and thinking, okay, he's 6 years old. My first thought is he can't read, which means maybe there's a visual processing challenge, but he's with a tutor, but he's also having a hard time understanding instructions and he's behind at school. So I'm thinking executive function skills, maybe there's ADHD going on. My first recommendation is to talk to your pediatrician and get an OT evaluation. That would be the first step.
Yeah, I'm thinking primitive reflexes as well. With the difficulty sitting still and focusing, behind at school, he can't read, maybe looking at ocular motor skills, vision therapy, but definitely starting from the ground up to try and get him to regulate. I would say if you can, look into our primitive reflex course, and then potentially our balanced brain program once he kind of gets those foundational skills.
Yep. So hopefully that was helpful. Not necessarily a question, but we wanted to address it and see if we could throw out some ideas for the person who put this on the form.
If you have any questions at all, if you have podcasts that you'd like us to talk about, if you just want to connect, you can always do so on Instagram. You can find us at All Things Sensory Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure you take a screenshot while you're listening and tag us as well, so that way we can share and you can share and we can reach more people.
Thanks so much for being here, and we will see you if you watch, or talk to you if you listen next week.
Okay, bye. Thank you so much for listening to All Things Sensory by Harkla.
If you want more information on anything mentioned in the show, head over to harkla.co/podcast to get the show notes.
If you have any follow-up questions, the best place to ask those is in the comments on the show notes, or message us on our Instagram account, which is at harkla_family or at All Things Sensory Podcast. If you just search Harkla, you'll find us there.
Like we mentioned before, our podcast listeners get 10% off their first order at Harkla. Whether it's for one of our digital courses or one of our sensory swings, the discount code SENSORY will get you 10% off. That's SENSORY.
Head to harkla.co/sensory to use that discount code right now.
We are so excited to work together to help create confident kids all over the world. While we make every effort to share correct information, we're still learning.
We will double check all of our facts, but realize that medicine is a constantly changing science and art.
One doctor or therapist may have a different way of doing things from another.
We are simply presenting our views and opinions on how to address common sensory challenges, health-related difficulties, and what we have found to be beneficial that will be as evidence-based as possible.
By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or your child.
Consult your child's pediatrician or therapist for any medical issues that he or she may be having.
This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast.
Thanks so much for listening.